Hi, this is Lori with Quilters Headquarters in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I am working on Block 4 of Tonga Nature's Lodge Block of the Month by Winging a Prayer. So Block 4, I already have, let me show you a picture of Block 4. I already have my fabrics cut, ready to go. This one's going to be easy peasy. So this is Block 4. All right, the first thing we're going to do is we will be working on this unit right here. Right, so we're going to use fabrics 1, 3, and 10. I have them laid out in the direction we're going to sew. So we'll add fabric 3 first. And I'm just going to chain piece, then we'll add this side, this bigger piece of fabric 3, and then we'll move on to fabric 10s. So I'm going to chain piece and probably just fast forward through all of this. So hang on, here we go. Using my gizmo cutter, it's just a little faster than the scissors, and I will now go over and press these to, the directions tell us to press away from the center. So I'll go over to my little ironing board and do that. Okay, so I pressed away from the center, meaning, you know, the 2.5 inch square of fabric 1 is the center, so all the seams are going to go away from the center. And now I will sew the bigger piece of fabric 3 to that unit. Okay, those are sewed hopefully correctly, so now I will go ahead and press them that way. Okay, so I have them all pressed in the right direction, like so. I just wanted to comment here that if by this time you haven't perfected your 1/4 inch seam, this is the time to do it, because these pieces are cut exactly so that your unit will come out to 4.5 inches. So 1/4 inch seam is absolutely necessary here. All right, I'll get these sewed together. And because your 1/4 inch seam is necessary, you will notice that when I lay this piece onto my previous unit, the length should be exact. And you can see mine's pretty darn good. Don't sew 2 pieces to that though. Fits perfect. Okay, then I'll take these over, continue to press away from the center like the directions tell. You know, some people are happy with finger pressing. I am in some instances. Okay, I'll lay these back out the way they're supposed to look, like so. I do this just so I don't get confused because I turn it now to go under my needle. So if you don't lay them out, things could happen, like maybe you might do that instead, and that's just wrong. So get started here. If you have trouble with your 1/4 inch seam, some of my tips and hints are, I like to use a 50 weight thread. I buy great big cones of Masterpiece. I think that's by Superior. And let me see, Masterpiece. Yes, by Superior. So I buy these great big cones. They're 50 weight. They help me get a nice 1/4 inch seam. And I always take a couple of stitches at the beginning and then make sure my end is still lined up. And I usually only line up maybe 4 inches at a time, and then I realign. I stop the machine and realign. Alright, so these units are complete. I'll go give them a quick press. I'll be right back. So, back to getting the 1/4 inch seam just perfect. It's also important that you press perfect when you are sewing. If you happen to not press right and you get like a little business going on like that, I don't know if you can see that on camera, you need to absolutely press. So I usually will finger press first with my thumbnail and make sure that it's pressed right up to my thread, my seam. And that also contributes to the 1/4 inch seam dilemma. So all of these are facing out, and this unit is complete already. Okay, so the next part of this block that we are going to be making is the flying geese. There'll be 2 sets of flying geese here, and then we'll sew those 2 flying geese for this unit. So our flying geese are with fabric 5 and 1 and fabric 5 and 8. So we will be using Deb Tucker's Studio 180 wing clipper today. And we cut the fabric exactly as our directions tell us. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw our sew lines on all 4 of the small squares. All right. And to do that, I use Deb Tucker's Studio 180 Quilters Magic Wand and the Bowen chalk pencil. It's got a nice thin white line that shows up very nicely. So I lay my etched line from the magic wand from corner to corner, and I'll be drawing both sew lines. There and there. All right, and the nice white shows up pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to all 8 of my pieces. So the next step I'm going to take is going to be a step that you probably will only see me do until it, I suppose, goes viral or something on the internet. I don't know. I know that the video has been shared a few times, but what I like to do is I like to cut out 2 layers of that point. This point right here. Make sure you're on camera. So this point right here, I like, there's the way that you use these tools is it adds 2 layers right in that point, and that's like the last place we need it. So I eliminate that point by doing this. It's really simple. So I lay my edge, not the middle etched part, but my edge, lay this piece in the corner, lay my edge there, and I draw a line, and I'm going to cut this part away. I do that to 2 of the squares only, and you'll see why in a minute. All right, so then I just take my scissors, I whack that piece off, just like so. Okay. Then when I lay these down, they meet. Got my corners lined up, and this corner lined up, and then these pieces meet right there in the middle. All right, that eliminates 2 extra layers right in the point. So I'm going to sew right on these lines. And what I like about using this method, see, I take a stitch or 2, get a hold of it, and then I line it back up. But what I like about this method of making flying geese is that you don't absolutely have to sew perfectly or anything else. You can trim it down to perfect when you're done. And that's the part I like. Turn it around, sew the other line. And I'm just sewing right on the line as best I can. And then I will trim this off. So I'm going to cut from corner to corner and cut this apart. I really don't have to measure anything as long as I'm just cutting down the middle. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and press this way. Now this is a bias seam line, so it's really helpful to finger press before you take it to the iron, just so that you don't bend that bias a little bit. See how I keep it nice and straight, and I'll just take it over to my ironing board and just press it. And a lot of people don't like to use steam. I love steam. I just let it cool for 5 or 10 seconds on the pressing mat before I pick it up and go waving it everywhere. All right. So now I'll lay these blocks, these little squares down that I have my lines drawn on, and I will sew right on the lines. And then we'll cut that apart. Turn it around, sew the other side. All right, Next, I will cut these apart, corner to corner. Ooh, got a little close there, but I'm okay. And corner to corner on this. And then I will go ahead and press that way. Again, I like to finger press these bias edges first. And I'll take it over to my iron and give it a quick press. Okay, the next step to this process is to take my flying geese and my wing clipper tool. And notice the wing clipper tool has, try to get out of the shadow. There we go. The wing clipper tool has this solid line that goes all the way down, and then these other cross lines, and that's where you want to find what size you're making. Ours is going to be a 4.5, so I'll find my 4.5 inch line and my solid line, and I'm going to lay those right on the seam. So my first point is this solid line, right so, and the second point is right here, and it fit perfectly. I'll give it a trim this way, and then I'll be turning it around. Like so. Then I'll turn it around. And now I'm going to lay my 4.5 inch line here and 2.5 inch line here, and I'll meet at the X up here. So just like this. So my 4.5 and 2.5 lined on the edge that I just trimmed up, and my X right here lines up perfectly in the corner, and I'll trim that. And now I have a perfect 2.5 by 4.5 inch flying geese. My corners ended up exactly in the corner. Let's see if I can zoom in. Look at that. Is that cool or what? So it ended up exactly there. I've got an exact 1/4 inch seam from the tip to the edge, and an exact corner right there. Exactly 2.5 by 4.5. A beautiful flying geese. Now I'm going to go finish the other 7, and I'll be right back. At this point, my audio, my wireless microphone cut out and was screeching and hollering. So I'll for the most part, you can just see me watch. You can see me putting the rest of the block together, and I'm lining up these 2 flying geese units and just sewing over that heavier part. And for the most part, I think we can just fast forward and just watch me put the rest of the block together. It lined up pretty nicely. It looks pretty good all in all. And we'll just fast forward from here. And I apologize for the audio cutting out. I'm still learning this, so apparently there's some sort of interference that can cut out the audio parts when you're using wireless. So I'm still trying to figure all of that out, but I'll get there sooner or later, I guess. So I know that I think right here I'm talking about how to press. And so I don't want to press that thick part right there in the peak. So we want to press towards this side so that you don't get all that extra thickness. It's harder to bend to that peak back. So from here on out, we'll just fast forward through and watch me sew it all together.